The base coordinator told him those coordinates were in the middle of a lake. He was standing on dry land, looking at a cabin. Elias here. I worked a section of the Smokies backcountry for 11 years. I want to be specific about what I mean when I say a section that wasn't on the operational maps, because I know how that sounds, and I want to be precise before I tell you what I found. Every large wilderness area has administrative dead zones, sections where the official trail maps and the operational grid used by rangers don't align. Some of these gaps are terrain artifacts, survey boundaries that don't reflect the actual geography. Some of them are more deliberate. I learned to stop asking which was which after about year 3. October 1982. I was running a routine perimeter check in a section I'd walked maybe 40 times before. No trail through that part. You navigate by compass and terrain feature. I came around a granite outcropping I'd passed dozens of times and stopped. There was a cabin, not a fire lookout, not a maintenance structure. A cabin. Rough-hewn timber, maybe 20 feet by 15, a stone chimney, a covered porch with 2 wooden chairs, the kind of construction that takes months and significant material. In a section of backcountry I had walked 40 times and never seen anything on. I stood at the edge of the clearing for about 2 minutes before I approached. My first thought was that I'd somehow drifted off my usual line, that I was in a section I didn't know as well as I thought. I hadn't drifted. I knew exactly where I was. The door was unlocked. Inside, a table, 2 chairs, a cast iron stove, a single wooden bunk. On the table, 2 tin mugs, a coffee pot on the stove. I touched the side of the pot. Warm, not hot, not recently brewed, but warm in the specific way of something that has been holding heat for a few hours. Not days, not weeks. Hours. Whoever had been in that cabin had left it within the last several hours. I radioed base. I gave my coordinates. The base coordinator told me those coordinates placed me in the center of a small lake approximately a quarter mile from my last confirmed waypoint. I was standing on solid ground, looking at a cabin. I told him what I was seeing. He told me to document and continue the perimeter check. Standard language. The kind of instruction that means noted and moving on rather than investigated and resolved. I photographed the interior with the film camera I carried. I noted the coordinates in my personal log. I went back to the station and filed a supplemental report describing the structure. When I requested a copy of that report 3 weeks later, I was told no supplemental from that date existed in the system. I still have the photographs, the coffee pot, 2 chairs, a warm stove, and coordinates my base coordinator told me were underwater. A cabin at coordinates base said we're in a lake. A warm coffee pot. No trail leading to it. A supplemental report that doesn't exist in the system. Subscribe to Obscure Nights. These are the accounts the system doesn't file. Was that cabin there before Elias found it and the coordinates were simply wrong? Or does the fact that the report disappeared tell you someone already knew what he'd found? Drop your answer below. Dana here, Search and Rescue Lead, Shoshone National Forest. I submitted this account because I stopped being able to explain it to myself after about a year of trying and decided the best thing I could do was put it somewhere it would be read. September 1994. I was running a secondary search pattern in backcountry terrain as part of a missing 411 style case. A hiker who had separated from his group in a section known for disorienting terrain. Standard expanding grid from the last known point. On the 3rd day of the search, I found a structure approximately 2 miles from the last confirmed position of the missing hiker. A cabin, timber construction, stone chimney, covered porch. I had searched that terrain section twice before on previous deployments. I had never seen a structure there. The door was unlocked. Inside, a table, 2 chairs, a cast iron stove, a single wooden bunk, identical in layout to every other backcountry cabin I had entered in 11 years of SAR work. Nothing unusual about the construction, nothing unusual about the contents, except the logbook on the table, a simple composition notebook, the kind you buy at any general store. I opened it. Inside, handwritten entries, dates going back to the early 1980s. Rangers, hikers, SAR personnel. Entries describing stopping at the cabin, noting the coordinates, noting the warm stove, noting the 2 chairs on the porch. The last entry before mine was dated October 1982. A ranger named with the initial E described finding the cabin during a routine perimeter check. He noted the coordinates. He noted the coffee pot was warm. He noted that base had told him those coordinates were in a lake. I stood in that cabin for a long time. Then I looked more carefully at the other entries in the logbook. The coordinates recorded by each person who had signed it were different. Not slightly different, significantly different. Different mountains, different forest sections, different states. Same description every time. Cabin, table, 2 chairs, cast iron stove, single bunk, warm coffee pot. I photographed the logbook. Every page, I documented the coordinates of the cabin in my personal GPS unit. I completed the search pattern and returned to base. The missing hiker was never found. I filed a full incident report including the logbook photographs and the cabin coordinates. 3 weeks later, I requested a copy of the report. The incident number existed in the system. The file attached to it was blank. The logbook photographs were on my personal camera's memory card until 2019 when the card failed. What I remember from those pages is the entry from 1982, the initial E, the lake that wasn't a lake, and the coordinates, which I cross-referenced when I got back to base. They matched a section of terrain I had searched 2 years earlier on a completely different deployment, a section I had walked through without finding anything. Whatever that cabin is, it has been found in multiple locations across multiple decades by people who were not looking for it. And every time someone files a report about it, the file comes back empty. What do you think that logbook was? A record someone maintained deliberately, or something that accumulated on its own? And does the fact that every report filed about this cabin comes back empty tell you the system knows it's there? Drop it below. The third account tonight comes from a ranger who brought a team back to document what he'd found. He had coordinates. He had witnesses. He had a recording device. What the recording device captured is the third account tonight. Marcus here, Olympic National Park. I'm going to tell you this account exactly the way I've told it to 3 other people, and I want to be clear that I understand how it sounds before I start. August 2011. Drone technology was just becoming available to NPS field teams. I was part of an early adoption program. We were testing compact drone units for terrain mapping in sections of Olympic that hadn't been formally surveyed from the air. Dense old growth approximately 6 miles from the nearest maintained trail when the drone's camera feed showed a structure in a small clearing below the canopy. I brought the drone down for a closer look. A cabin. Timber construction. Stone chimney. Covered porch with 2 chairs. I logged the GPS coordinates precisely. Drone mapping units record to within 3 meters. I documented the structure on the drone footage. I hiked to the location and confirmed on foot what the drone had shown. The door was unlocked. Inside, table, 2 chairs, cast iron stove, single bunk, a composition notebook on the table. I did not open the notebook. I wish I had. I hiked back to the station and reported the structure to my supervisor. He told me to take a 2-person team back the following morning and document it fully for the Unmapped Structures Registry. The following morning, I led 2 colleagues to the GPS coordinates I had logged. There was no cabin, not burned, not demolished, not moved. The clearing was there. The specific oval of open space in the old-growth canopy that the drone had captured was visible from the ground exactly as I had documented it. But the ground inside the clearing showed no foundation. No disturbed soil where a stone chimney base would have been. No cut timber remnants, no hardware, no debris. The terrain inside that clearing matched the surrounding old-growth floor exactly. Decades of undisturbed leaf accumulation, root systems crossing the ground without interruption, no evidence that any structure had ever stood there. I pulled up the drone footage on my unit to show my colleagues the structure I had filmed the day before. The footage from that flight segment showed a clearing, old-growth canopy, the oval of open space, no cabin. I have reviewed that footage more times than I can count. The GPS coordinates match. The flight path matches, the clearing matches. The cabin does not appear in the footage. I am not telling you the cabin was never there. I was inside it. I touched the table. I noted the notebook. The drone footage shows a clearing at the exact coordinates where I stood on the porch and looked at 2 chairs. What I am telling you is that neither the footage nor the terrain the following morning contained the structure I documented, stood inside, and reported. My supervisor closed the unmapped structures notation on the grounds that no structure was found at the reported coordinates. He was not wrong. By the time he checked the coordinates, he wasn't wrong. GPS coordinates logged to 3 meters. Drone footage, on-foot confirmation, 2 witnesses the following morning. No cabin, no foundation, no evidence anything had ever stood there. And footage from the day before that shows the clearing, but not the cabin. Subscribe to Obscure Nights right now. Does the footage showing the clearing but not the cabin tell you the recording device missed it? Or tell you something about what that clearing was before the cabin appeared in it? Drop your answer below. 3 accounts, 3 decades. 1 structure found at different coordinates by different people in different wilderness sections. With the same interior, the same warm coffee pot, the same 2 chairs on the porch. If you are ever in backcountry terrain and you find a structure that is not on your topo map, here is the protocol that experienced wilderness rangers follow and that none of the 3 narrators tonight used. Do not enter alone. Note the GPS coordinates on your device before you approach and share them immediately via radio or satellite communicator with your base contact. Take exterior photographs before entering. If you enter, do not touch anything. Photograph everything, including any documentation inside. Exit and report immediately. The reason this protocol matters is not supernatural. Unmapped structures in backcountry terrain are documented regularly. Old mining claims, trapping cabins, historical homestead remnants that predate the survey systems. Most of them are benign. Some of them are active, used by people who do not want them found. A warm coffee pot in an unmapped cabin means someone was there recently. Someone who did not want to be seen. In wilderness terrain that is sometimes connected to illegal activity, drug operations, illegal hunting, trafficking routes. The Chiricahua corridor case from this channel's archive documents exactly this risk. If you find a structure that should not be there, document from the exterior, share your coordinates, and exit. Do not make yourself a witness someone needs to manage. These accounts are open, the logbook is gone. The footage shows a clearing. To anyone who has submitted an account to Obscure Nights and is still waiting to hear their story told, we are coming. The inbox is full and every account matters. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. The links are in the channel bio. Every follow keeps these accounts visible. And if you want to support Obscure Nights, we are working toward replacing the AI voice with a real voice actor so these stories sound the way they deserve to sound. The support link is in the bio. This is Obscure Nights, where the cases nobody talks about get told the way they actually happened. Good night.